Hi, Mohammed Al Sayed, and today we will talk about youth employment.
Yes, hi, I'm Victor Bolt. I'm a filmmaker and photographer, and today we talk about this topic.
So, Victor, what is youth employment?
Yes, so first let's talk about what's employment. Employment is, well, on an individual level, it is the status of whether someone has a job or not, like a regular paid income. And it can be as little as like a few hours a month, but if you have a job contract, you're employed. There's different forms of employment, and we will get to that later also, but you can be self-employed as a freelancer, or you can have your own company and be an entrepreneur, or you can be a regular, working person. We will talk about unemployment rate, and that number has to be understood not as the total percentage of people in a specific age group or whatever who have or have not a job. It means the total percentage of the workforce which is employed. So the workforce is the people who are on the job market, basically. You have students, they're not on the job market, or people who are for leave or have a medical issue that currently keeps them from participating in the workforce. So the other people, they make up the workforce. And when we talk about unemployment, we specifically talk about them. Yes.
And so, what the advantage of high youth employment?
Yes. So, well, youth employment is, of course, then employment, talking about young people. And the young people are the ones who are entering the job market. They are the ones who make up the future of whole workforce, and it's an important number to keep an eye on, because it tells you a lot about the socioeconomic situation of the country you're looking at. So if young people are unemployed, that's more a problem than if the average workforce has a high employment rate, because young people, well, they make up again the future. They having employment or not employment, like that determines a lot about your future life. If you have, it means you are usually people have are more fulfilled. They're making maybe some form of progress, learning new skills, enriching themselves for the future usually. And as employment should be, that is, and so a high youth employment rate is pretty important. Also, young people are usually more adventurous, usually more interested in the new things, in technology, digitalization, and so on. So yes, also with that topic, digitalization, it's pretty important for Germany. Yes.
And you think that the youth will be really asset of the development for this?
Yes, it's one of the most important assets of a country economically. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
What is the what?
What is the situation in Germany?
Situation. Okay. So, Victor, what is the situation here in Germany?
Yes. So in Germany at the moment, youth employment is pretty high. It's pretty high on a global level, and it's also pretty high compared to other countries in Europe. So, for example, Spain or Mediterranean countries have typically lower youth employment than Germany does.
So, Victor, in your point of view, what are the reasons that makes Germany provide really good performance?
Yes. So the reasons are manifold, because it's a complex topic. But one of the reasons is Germany is also a two-sided educational system. It's pretty easy from the beginning to have a career in as a worker or as an academic career through the education system, and that gives people a lot more options. Although there's to say that still one of the most determining factors on which career people choose and which socioeconomic sector then end up is still the socioeconomic performance of their parents. but still, people do technically have options, and that helps. Another thing is that, well, Germany has something called Fachkräftemangel, which is a very important term for this topic. It means that we do not have enough people who are handworkers, craftsmen. We lack those. So that opens a lot of opportunities for jobs for people. And in that term also we benefit partially from other countries, because a lot of people from other European countries also come here and get employed in Germany. So we are importing jobs also from other countries, and also there one of the reasons is probably that Germany is a good, well, has a strong economy, and people do want to work here and have benefits from that. Although in that term again, Germany needs to take more advantage of that and really needs to benefit more from migration. You can see that in some cities who are, for example, taking less migrants, like the city we are in currently, Wuppertal, did not as much benefit from the migration in the last few years. So, and you can see that in the economic performance of the city. It's a good resource that needs to be valued just as well as the people of that. But that's diverging from the topic. Germany, those are some of the key reasons. Other than that, also one comes to mind is work culture, I would say, or like cultural reasons in general. It's pretty important for young people to have a job. And yes, and about that we will talk a little bit more in the following questions.
Okay, so Victor, what is or are the benefits of the current situation in Germany?
Yes, so on paper, with the high youth employment and also generally high employment in Germany, on paper that's pretty good. It means that everyone's contributing to their GDP. It means people are well able to take care of themselves. That people are well, typically people who spend money, people who work, have money, spend money. It's also one of the economic factors that determines well how happy people are economically. And it means that people are well contributing to their own careers and enhancing their lives, enriching their lives, and it's in general better economically to have a high employment rate. Yes.
So, well, do you think is all employment is equal?
Yes. So that's a really important question, because that determines the context of what we're talking about, and that sets the numbers into context. Because if you just look at employment, unemployment, it's just one number. But I stand to think that there's multiple ways people can be employed and multiple ways people can be unemployed. So, for example, specifically with young people, I think, it's the most valuable time of your life in many ways. It's when you have most energy, when you have most new ideas, where you can find yourself, where you create your own persona, where you make the experience that formed you as a person. And having a job generally can be beneficial to that, but it doesn't have to be. I think if people do have the chance to be unemployed and experiment, travel maybe, or volunteer, or create art, or practice new skills, learn new languages, think, that's a good thing to do. I can speak from my own experience also, because for me after school I also for a year I did not work or study. I traveled, and I can say that that greatly shaped my career today, what I do, because in that time I was traveling to France a lot for a year, and that I would not be a photographer if I would have not done that. So that's one factor. And also, let's look at the other side of this, employment. Is all employment a good thing? And well, maybe, but there's many forms of employment that are not having a long-term benefit for the people. For example, if someone is just working to sustain a bare minimum quality of life and need to take any job that makes them have enough to sustain their life, that's not a good situation for people. We have in Germany something called the Billiglohnsektor, Niedriglohnsektor, which is a whole sector of the industry where you get jobs where you don't really necessarily need any form of Ausbildung, education for, and also don't get any education for. It's great if you work in a storage facility for half a year and then you can maybe make some investments into yourself, into your other interests or whatever you do. But it, for example, what is a situation here in NRW, which I ran to time and time again, is that over the last 3 job interviews I had for smaller jobs, everyone asks like, do you have a car? And I go like, no, I don't have a car. And every single time the answer was, I understand. So you have this job to get a car, which is a situation that is quite common in specifically this part of Germany, NRW, because we have terrible infrastructure if you get out of the car in many ways. Some larger cities are better than others, but if you in an area where you have to work between cities, it's almost impossible. It's pretty hard. It takes away a significant amount of freedom for the people living here, young people especially, and everybody has to buy a car. So what's the benefit of that? Having a job that forces you into a lifestyle that is also less sustainable. That's not a good situation. Also, again, to the Billiglohnsektor, there's lots of people who are taking jobs where now people are not getting educated anymore. People used to be trained as someone, a service craft, for example, in restaurants and so on. It was usually like you train it, you get better at it, you can get a better job at it, but now you work in a cafe for Mindestlohn, or a little bit more maybe, get some tips, but then you do that work for some time, and they can just throw you out because you're replaceable. And then you can work as another service craft and get the same amount of money, just do the same thing. And that's a pretty not good situation. We also have one situation in Germany which is called intellektuelles Prekariat, which is, prekariat is like kind of a term that it's a wordplay on proletariat, the working class, and precare, which means a critical situation, like a situation where you can just keep your head above water. And there's even people who are quite educated, for example, artists or people who studied philosophy for some reason, who are very qualified, actors, many people who struggle finding a job, struggle getting into a situation where they can make money for the future, have more than they need to earn more than they need to use. And so yes, Germany has a high employment rate, also high youth employment rate, but that's not the only thing that counts. That's not the only thing that's important. And well, right now, just as we speak, there's a reform also coming in Germany on the Hartz IV, the minimum subsistence given to people by the state to have a dignified life, which is not, and the state did not used to do it that in a very dignified way, but they're working on some changes like that. For example, people would get punished, get less money and so on, be kept in this critical situation, and there's now more, hopefully more policy changes, more ways to push people to not just take any job to get away from the Hartz IV, but to develop themselves, to get jobs they actually want and so on. And Germany has a long way to go. Germany needs to make more changes to that also. And yes, people need to be educated about that and understand that. We have a society that needs to be mixed between all socioeconomic classes, because if you meet only people who are your own socioeconomic class, that's pretty boring and it makes life more interesting. And then just looking at numbers and seeing, oh, everyone's employed, that's great, is too simplified.